Dear students, hope all of you are doing well. And this is the lecture of Strategic Human Resource Management. Today's topic is outsourcing and its HR implications. And I am Dr. Tripti Barthwal. I am Director, Lal Bahadur Shastri Institute of Management and Development Studies, Lucknow. So, let's first understand what is the meaning of outsourcing. I am sure most of you must be aware of what outsourcing means. Uh, Outsourcing means, you know, when you source something from outside the organization, when you get something done from outside the organization, instead of your employees doing that work, somebody from outside does that work, or maybe it can be related to, you know, getting raw material from outside the organization, getting any part of the work done from outside the organization. So, outsourcing is obtaining work previously done by employees inside the company from sources outside the company. The outsourcing of labor overseas is a natural result of the globalization of markets and businesses' drive to cut costs to maximize profits. So, outsourcing has become a very common phenomenon after globalization, because after globalization, you know, movement of people across the globe became much more easier, much more barrier free. So, you know, obviously businesses want to get their things done at the lowest possible cost, and this is only possible if, you know, lowest costs are not available in their country. Then what they will do, they will move that part of the work to some other country where it can be done at lower cost, or they will pass on that work to some other company which can do that work at a cost which is lower than what they will incur if they do the work on their own. If workers in countries such as India or China can do the same job for a fraction of the price than domestic labor demands, those jobs will be sent abroad. So, you know, that is why there has been so much of outsourcing of work into India or China, because here the manpower is cheaper in comparison to the Western countries, and that is why, you know, many companies from America and other Western countries send some part of their work to be done in India or China. So, there are a lot of, you must have heard about a lot of BPOs, business process outsourcing, KPOs, knowledge processing outsourcing. So, this is all, you know, all tasks which have been sent from other countries to our country or to other countries where they feel that they can be done at a lower cost. It is a good business strategy that allocates labor to its most efficient use. So, you know, you can obviously give away work to where it can be done most efficiently in terms of time, resources, money, etc. Without outsourcing, the United States may not have maintained its status as an economic superpower as the world became an integrated global marketplace. So, as the globalization occurred, you know, there was more and more pressure on companies to reduce their cost, and one of the very reasons USA could do so well is because of outsourcing, because at the right time they realized that they can outsource some of their business functions to organizations or to other organizations or to other countries. And that is how you can see that outsourcing is a concept which not only benefits the country or the company which receives business or which receives those tasks, but also the company or the business which outsource the tasks. The rationale of outsourcing is that some outside company has specialized in an activity which is not strategically critical to our business and is able to do that cost effectively. It is better to get it done from outside. So, it is a simple thing that if some work, some part of my work which I feel I will not be able to do justice, and somebody else can do it much better than me and can also maybe do it at a lesser cost than me, then it is better to get it done from outside. The organization gets benefited in the form of excellent quality, reliable supply and rock bottom price. So, the organization which is outsourcing gets work done of a better quality, because the organization did not have the expertise of doing it itself, and obviously the cost is also less, and because this organization is already established in this field of doing this part of the activity, you are very sure about that you will get the work done timely. It can focus exclusively on doing what it is good at, thereby enhancing its own competitive advantage. So, the organization which is outsourcing can focus on its core competency and outsource its which are the areas which is not its core competency, to organizations which have those areas as their core competency. So, what activities organizations need to outsource depends on the nature and size of the organization. Obviously there will be organizations where a lot of confidential work is being done. So, even if you want, you can't outsource it. Then how big is the organizations? For smaller organizations it may be difficult to outsource, and then internal skill sets where the skills are very strong, you do not need to outsource. Where skills are lacking in the organization, those activities, those areas need to be outsourced. Then regulatory environment, there may be certain restrictions on what activities can be outsourced, what cannot be. And financial advantage, if the cost incurred in outsourcing is less than you incur in doing the work on your own, then only it is a benefit to outsource. Then partner capabilities, one should be very sure that to the firm which we are outsourcing activities is very competent in those activities. Otherwise then you may end up spending more and still you will not get quality. And key HR initiatives which have those activities which the firm should do on its own and which it should do away with. And the culture of the organization, in certain organizations the culture is you keep only few activities with yourselves and give away the rest, the other part of it. But in certain organizations it is like the organization wants to take up most of the activities on its own. HR outsourcing, we have just discussed outsourcing, now we talk about HR outsourcing. It is a process in which certain human resource activities are outsourced to external partners, which helps the organization get advantage of specialized skills, reduce cost, and enable HR personnel to focus on strategic initiatives. So, when we are talking about specifically HR function and giving away certain activities to outside parties and keeping certain activities which are our core competencies or which we would like to do ourselves to us only, then that is HR outsourcing. It helps organization focus on internal resources towards doing what they do best, and simultaneously helps to control the bottom lines. So, now coming to the process of HR outsourcing. The first step in HR outsourcing is identification of key HR initiatives. So, this is very important, because first we need to know as an organization what are those activities which are HR activities which are very important, very significant for us, which we cannot do away with. So, for certain organizations like maybe training is an activity which they do not want to outsource, because they have a very specific skill set which needs to be imparted to the employees, and they do not want any other organization to dilute it. They do not feel that they will not be able to do justice with it. So, it can think that training is a key HR initiative, or maybe the payroll management. Some organizations may think that is a key HR initiative. Some organizations may consider recruitment and selection, because this is the point from where the employee enters the organization. So, you have to be very careful at that point. So, some organizations may not want to do away with recruitment and selection. So, depending on what the organization feels, that what are its key HR initiatives, those activities can be kept to oneself and rest can be outsourced. define HR strategic role in the organization. So, for that you have to, the organization has to think and just kind of jot down that how HR is contributing to the strategy of the organization, what activities of HR are specifically contributing to the strategy of the organization, and from there we can very easily come to know that whatever activities are contributing directly to the strategy of the organization, those cannot be outsourced. Focus on how HR drives the company's overall mission. Decide what HR tasks are special to the company and important to the culture. Then after this, once we have decided the key HR initiatives, which functions are very specific and special to the company, second step would be we have to decide which functions can be outsourced. Any roles HR is currently managing that fall outside of the key HR initiatives should be considered for outsourcing. So, if if there is any activities which are, as I said, outside the HR strategic role in the organization, or which are key to HR in the organization, apart from those activities, rest of the activities can very well be outsourced. So, there are good outsourcing firms that can efficiently tackle activities like relocation, temporary staffing, background checks, etc. So, depending on which activities you think that you can outsource, which are your key activities and which are not non-key activities which can be outsourced, you can give it to the companies which have, firms which have expertise in it. So, some of the examples can be that you can do away with relocation, temporary staffing, background checks, etc. While these processes are very important to the operation of the company, they do not drive the strategic mission of the organization. So, if you feel that these activities, though they are important, but they do not drive the strategy of the organization, in that case they can be outsourced. Then the third step would be to create a team of internal and external specialists. So, even if you outsource an activity to an outside organization, still you have to allow communication, or you have to form a team between the people who will remain in touch within the organization, who will be responsible for those activities, or let us say keeping in touch with the employees in the organization to whom these activities have been outsourced. So, that creates a team of internal and external experts. A company that enlists outside specialists to supplement on-staff talent cultivates a strong team of HR professionals. So, if I do not have an expertise in-house, then what do? I outsource that activity to an external agency, and then I create a team of external and internal specialists. Find a trusted partner or partners. So, the success of outsourcing will depend on two major things. First is that you have been able to identify which are your key activities and which are your core activities and which are your non-core activities. So, that is point number one. And the second thing is the availability of a trusted partner. That is, to whom you are outsourcing, to the company you are outsourcing, is an expert, performs well and is reliable. Compare benefits, the associated cost and approaches of different firms. So, it is very important at the end of the day, you should not make a fool of yourself, in the sense that you have outsourced, got work done of a average quality or substandard quality, and you have spent a lot of money on it also. So, that should be taken care of, and for that it is very important to conduct background checks to ensure that the outsourcing firm's reputation is solid. So, you can ask those agencies to whom you are outsourcing your HR functions to give you a list of clients they have already served, to companies they have already worked for, and then you can just inquire from these companies how satisfied they were with their results, and how so it is in a way it becomes easier for you to make a decision whether you should hire this company or not for outsourcing. outsourcing. Now, obviously, when we are going for HR outsourcing, then it has its own advantages and disadvantages. So, first we talk about the advantages of HR outsourcing. Obviously, the first thing is it is saving money, because work is being outsourced, because if the organization itself gets the work done, then it keeps employees on payroll, then it gives benefits to these employees, and lot of other things have to be taken care of. And once the employee is appointed, whether there will be a work of this kind or not, he will be kept on payroll, right. So, that ways it is kind of a very contractual thing for 3 months or 4 months, whatever the time is, this company will work for you, and once the work is done, then the relationship comes to an end. So, the biggest gains come from outsourcing somewhat repetitive tasks that require a lot of time, but do not necessarily need a lot of training, guidance or personalized knowledge. Outsourcing some of these functions frees up the internal HR team to be more strategic rather than tactical. So, if the HR department or the HR team is just involved and busy with routine work, then they will not be able to contribute to the strategic objectives of the organization. So, it is very important to outsource these routine activities. Then access to a larger talent pool. So, obviously, we just discussed in the process of HR outsourcing that you create a team of external and internal specialists. If you do not outsource, then you only have internal specialists. So, which is like not a very large number, but once you outsource, then the outside experts also join your team and the team becomes larger. So, better ideas, better solutions come up. When hiring an employee, companies may only have access to a small local talent pool. This often means a compromise. Many companies have found that outsourcing gives them access to talent in other parts of the world also. So, for example, if I am a company which is based in Delhi, and if I want that I should get employees from Germany also and France also, and if I go and conduct recruitment and selection at every place, then it becomes very expensive for me, and it is very unlikely that employees from Germany and France will pay for their ticket and come to interview to Delhi. So, what is the best way out? That I look for an outsourcing company in France and in Germany, and they conduct initial part of the recruitment selection process for me, and then final interview maybe or through the online mode, or I can pay for the ticket of the few selected very promising candidates, and then the interview can be conducted, or some representative of the company can fly to France and Germany to conduct the interview. So, this is how it gives us access to a larger talent pool. Then another advantage of HR outsourcing is vertical expertise. Outsourcing can be a good option when the company may just not have the relevant expertise in-house. So, as I said that you may not have people who have expertise in all areas of HR. So, it is best instead of hiring people and then paying them lot of heavy compensation packages, it is better to get an expert from outside. Jobs like legal compliance begin to get much more complicated as a company goes. So, legal aspects is one area wherein even if you have an expert in-house, that may not be enough, and as the company grows, the number of employees increases, then there are more complications related to labor laws and all those things, employee policies, etc. So, it is better to hire it to offload it to some external agency which is expert, which has lot of experts on board to handle these legal issues. Smaller companies may have a non-expert handling some of the HR duties and may later find themselves unable to keep up with the rules and regulations surrounding areas like taxes. So, it is a good option for small companies also, instead of they may not be able to pay for such a high level of expertise and inexperienced employees and an expert employee. So, best they can is what they can do is they can also outsource. At this point, outsourcing this job to an HR specialist who understand the legal vertical can be hugely beneficial. Now, it is a very rosy picture about HR outsourcing, lot of benefits which the organization receives from it, but it is not without its disadvantages or limitations. So, let us look at the cons associated with HR outsourcing. First is low employee morale. Now, consider yourself an employee in an organization, and if you feel most of the functions are being outsourced, then you become scared about your job, right. You may feel that one fine day your responsibilities may also be outsourced, and you may be in jeopardy. So, low employee morale. If a worker knows that their jobs may be outsourced to cheaper foreign labor at any given moment, they may lose confidence in their employer and become discouraged. They undergo survivor syndrome. And what is survivor syndrome? It refers to a marked decrease in motivation, engagement and productivity of employees that remain in the company as a result of outsourcing. So, obviously, when you feel that your colleague's job has been taken away because his duties and responsibilities have been outsourced to an external agency, then you feel that something similar is going to happen to you also someday. And that is why even if you stay with the organization, you are always insecure, you are always fearful, you are always doubtful, you are always anxious, and that is how the morale of existing employees also goes down. Next is less availability. There is a good chance that a response won't be as quick from an external company as it would be from an in-house HR person. That is also a very valid point, because an employee who is working for the organization, who is in the payroll, understands the importance of deadlines, works because he is directly responsible for completing a task. So, he may stay for extra hours, put in extra effort to complete a task. But once you outsource it, many times things may be delayed, because to the outsourced company it is just one of the tasks, one of the projects which have been assigned. So, the employee who is working on those that task which you have outsourced does not have as such a personal responsibility, does not identify as so much with the task as an in-house employee can. Contracts should be reviewed annually to see whether the outsourcing is benefiting the organization and the employees. If not, it shouldn't be renewed. So, this is very important. In order to avoid this lacuna, every year or maybe in 6 months or in years time, the contracts with the agency to whom the activities have been outsourced should be revised, reviewed, feedback should be taken from the employees, how the work is being done by them and what are the problem areas. And if there are a lot of problem areas, if things are not being done according to the requirements of the organization, then there should be a question mark. It should be seen whether we should outsource to this company again, or we should look for a new partner. Then reduced human touch. Some of the biggest, most challenging and most emotional experiences in an office involve HR. HR works with employees and their families on very personal matters like health, life insurance and so on. So, when there is an HR department, you must have studied in your class, and you must have read in books also, that HR acts as a linking pin between the management and the employees, right. And it is like a punching bag from both the sides. So, it is like a shock absorber. So, HR not only does all the the whatever is like recruitment, selection, training, development, it also maintains a personal touch with the employees, and it gives a very personal, humane feeling to the organization. But once most of the HR functions have been clipped and they have been given away to other organizations, this personal touch is lost. Thus, the risk in excessive outsourcing is the loss of connection between company management and its employees. So, once the linking pin is gone, once the bridge is gone, most of the things have been outsourced, then there will be no connecting bridge between the management of the organization and the employees. Shortage of workforce. Outsourcing takes labor out of the workforce of a country and set laborers to work doing tasks they may not be critical to their own country's development or growth, but pays better nonetheless. We must have heard of, you must have heard of brain drain, and a lot of employees leaving their own country to work in countries outside because they form part of cheap labor. So, people may be enticed to leave agrarian or cottage industries to earn more money in a city or as a call center operator. So, what happens? The entire economy of a country or a particular area can collapse if there is lot of outsourcing. Lack of control. So, because you have outsourced a function, now it has been given to a company which is outside of your organization. So, you cannot control it like the way you can control your own employees, you can monitor your own employees. So, although a firm can provide direction in regard to what it needs to accomplish, in reality it gives up some control when it outsources. There are many reasons for this, including the fact that they are often hiring a contractor instead of an employee. Right. So, you are basically, when you are outsourcing, you are giving it to a company or a contractor, you are not hiring or you are not dealing with an employee as such. And since the person is not working on site, it can be difficult to maintain the level of control desired. So, the person does not work before you, he works at his own company, and so you cannot exercise the kind of control you can have on your employee. So, some examples of HR outsourcing are Tata Motors outsourced its talent acquisition, barring CXOs, other levels and top management, they have outsourced hiring to a leading recruitment process outsourcing company. Financial services giant Citi Group's shared services center in Pune moved to recruitment process outsourcing, and others like Mahindra, Wipro, Honeywell, L&T, Technology Services and HDFC Life are among an increasing number of companies in India that are embracing recruitment process outsourcing to get an edge in securing top talent. So, this is how HR outsourcing works in reality in organizations. So, I hope that you have understood this concept of HR outsourcing and its implications. Thank you.